Chapter 42, Bad News. Crescent woke me up 20 breams later to tell me that I needed to come get the pain meds the medic had sent me. I went down and put one pill in a cube of energon. It dissolved, hissing and bubbling, and changed the color of the fuel to a sort of sickly turquoise. I poured it down, the port in my shoulder, and went back to my room. I was still tired, and while the pain was coming back, it was still negligible. My tanks felt a little strange, probably from the medicine, but I fell into a blissfully deep recharge for the first time into cairns. My systems woke me up the next on cycle. I still felt a little ill, but my processor didn't hurt nearly as much. I also felt better rested than I had in Orns. Crescent was still recharging. I went down and put another pill in a cube of energon. I was glad I didn't have to taste it, because it looked disgusting. Crescent came in several breams later. Oh, Soundwave, you're already awake. I've made an appointment for next Orn. Unless we can think of something else by then, we're just going to go. I nodded. What time? 16 Jurs. That would be after classes were over. I could go to the school. What I wanted to do was go to school and stay in my room until classes were over, then go talk to Searchlight. My symbiotes were probably worried about me. I was a little worried too, but I was mostly just happy that I didn't feel like my helm was going to fall off. I waited for Crescent to go to the sitting room, then took several covered energon cubes and subspaced them. I left a note on the table to let her know I'd gone to school, just in case she decided to start caring. I wasn't sure what I was expecting going out in the city with so many other processors in my range. By the time I got to school, there was a dull throb behind my screen. It wasn't the splitting pain it should have been, but it did hurt. I went right to my room. My symbiotes, even Laserbeak, were piled up on my desk together, recharging. Ravage was the first one awake. He came back online as soon as I opened the door. Soundwave. He sprang from the pile and almost knocked me over. I stumbled, but caught myself, feeling queasy, but happy to see them all the same. The others woke up and all piled onto me, as well as I sat down at my desk. Yay. We thought you weren't coming back. Are you all right? Where the pit did you go? I'm okay, I told them. I'm feeling better. But I was going to need to have processor surgery, probably. Or maybe after further scans, it would come out that there was nothing they could do. Where did you go? Ravage asked. I went to visit Crescent's medic. He tried to figure out what's wrong with me. Then he gave me something to take the pain away, and I'm going to need to go back next Orn. Are you going to be all right? Laserbeak asked. Can you take us with you then? Frenzy asked. I cupped my hand around him. No, you'll have to stay here. They can't have any distractions while they try to figure out how to help me. They are going to find a way, right? Ravage asked. Of course, I said. I'm going to be fine. Will you still need us afterward? Frenzy asked. Frenzy. Rumble said. Of course, I said. I always will. I don't need you just because I'm sick. Good, Frenzy said. We always need you too. I leaned forward to rest my arms on the desk and Rumble and Frenzy climbed up to use them as benches. We were good while you were gone, Frenzy said. Really? There was a nasty burning sensation in my tanks. We stayed up waiting for you to come back. Then you didn't, and Rumble thought you weren't going to. You liar, Rumble said. You were the one who was crying. I pulled both of them closer. I'm so sorry you were worried. Frenzy was the most worried, Ravage thought. And he made the rest of us worry too. So we all just huddled together on the desk to wait for you to come, and we fell into recharge that way. I really am sorry. You know I'd never leave you here all alone. If something had happened, Searchlight would have come and told you about it. Ravage nodded. We were still worried, Laserbeak thought. Don't do that again. Next time I'll try to give you more warning. I unsubspaced a cube of energon. Here, all of you share this. I put it on the desk. Take turns. Biggest to smallest. I sat back and turned off my screen while they crowded around the cube of energon. I didn't need my screen to see anyway, I was seeing through all of their optics. Frenzy went last because Rumble pushed him out of the way when it was their turn. I didn't stop him because Frenzy didn't really mind, and if Frenzy went first, Rumble wasn't likely to get any. Sure enough, Frenzy tipped over the cube when it was his turn and spilled what was left all over my desk. He apologized profusely as I cleaned it up, and I told him it was all right. Even though I wasn't in as much pain, I still had a hard time concentrating on my homework. So, I just played a mindless game on my datapad while I waited for classes to be done for the Orn. Eventually, my tanks hurt enough that I didn't really feel like playing the game either. It wasn't quite as bad as the processor ache, but it was starting to get close by the time classes let out. I intended to tell Searchlight and my other friends exactly what was happening, I owed them that. But I didn't want my symbiotes, especially the twins, to worry about me. They all would if they knew how bad this really was. I got up. I'm going to talk to Searchlight and the others. I want you to stay here, though. Why? Don't start that, I told Frenzy. I'll be back before the off cycle, alright. Can't we come? Ravage asked. Not this time. I'll be back soon. I promise. They nodded, though they were all scared, even Laserbeak. Hey, I said. I told you, things are working out. Don't be so worried. I left and made it to Searchlight's room just after he and Ratchet got there. Soundwave, Searchlight said. So, what's the news? I held up a hand. Okay, we'll wait for Breeze. Where are your symbiotes? We sat and waited for Breeze. My tanks really hurt. If this was the side effect of that drug, it pretty much wasn't worth it. Breeze came in. Okay, Searchlight said. We're all here. So tell us what happened. You saw a medic, right? I nodded, but I didn't want to talk, I felt too sick. So I pulled out a datapad and wrote everything down, from the medic's diagnosis to Crescent's hesitance to the fact that I didn't want the symbiotes to know how bad it was. Searchlight, Breeze, and Ratchet crowded around the datapad to read it. When they were done, Searchlight handed it back to me. Wow, Mac, that's scary. He's going to need processor surgery, Breeze thought. Oh, Primus, what if they can't do anything? That is really bad. Processor surgery is no sure thing. One little mistake and you offline or get wiped. I'm going in to change his coding by the Allspark. Thank you so much, Ratchet. That made me feel so much better about this. So, Ratchet said. You mentioned the painkiller they gave you is making your tanks hurt. Do you know what it is? I wonder if I've heard of it. A chronic processor ache would be difficult to get rid of using energon additives. I shrugged. Can I have some? To analyze. Maybe I can figure it out. I hesitated. Don't be ridiculous, Searchlight said. Soundwave needs it. Besides, he's probably not supposed to hand it out, and I don't trust Ratchet with drugs, the little mad scientist. Well, if he's having side effects, maybe he should give it back and get a different painkiller, Bree said, her wings twitching sympathetically. Oh, Soundwave, she put her hands to her faceplate as the horror of the situation hit her again. I looked away. Searchlight put an arm around Breeze. You're going to be okay, Wave, he said. You're going to be fine, we'll work something out. Crescent's medic is probably really good, and if he can't do it, they'll get someone who can. Mechs come out of processor surgery just fine. Slag, that's scary, but you'll be alright. I was grateful for his encouragement and grateful that he really meant it. So, Ratchet said, you're going to be missing a lot of school. Do you want us to try and keep track of what you're missing? But the only class we have together is art, I said. Oh. Right. Homework. Searchlight said. Is that really what you're thinking about right now? Homework. Homework is not an issue. Soundwave's fragging life is on the line here. Thanks for offering, I said. Ratchet really was worried. He just expressed it differently than most mecha. But really, Bree said. If there's anything at all that we can do. Even stuff like keep track of your schoolwork while you aren't here. My tanks lurched and I flinched. Seconded, Searchlight said, pulling Breeze a little closer. Anything at all. A shudder ran through me and I gripped the arms of the chair as my tanks heaved again. Wave, are you alright? I leaned forward, venting hard, and then my tanks turned and heaved again and I felt hot liquid slide up the tube that led to the port on my shoulder. The panel over it automatically pulled away as energon spilled over the edge. I cried out and slipped from the chair to my knees as my tanks lurched and boiled and did their best to empty themselves. Off blue, steaming energon poured down the front of my shoulder and dripped to the ground, then spurted out, splattering over Searchlight's floor. Mech, Searchlight said. I sobbed as my tanks expelled another spurt of energon, pouring it out onto the floor and down my front. Searchlight got down off the berth and knelt by me. He put a hand on my back, but didn't say anything. I didn't stop until my tanks were practically empty. The pain was mostly gone now, but I felt shaky and still nauseous. I sat up slowly. Searchlight looked up. Hey, Docbot, get down here and do something, would you? Wave, are you alright? I nodded. That energon's the wrong color, Ratchet said. No slag, genius, Searchlight said. Is that the drug? Did they have you put it in your energon? I nodded. Your tanks are probably empty then, Ratchet said. You need to go to Okra's office. She has some medical grade there. That should be pretty easy to keep down. I should clay EAN this up first. It's fine, Bree said. We'll handle the floor. She stood and pulled out a mesh rag. She offered it to me with a weak smile and I used it to mop up the energon on my shoulder, feeling self-conscious. Spewing energon all over your friend's floor in front of 3 mecha was bad enough, but I'd done it out of my shoulder, not my mouth. Of course, they all knew I didn't have a faceplate, but it was still embarrassing. I thanked Breeze for the rag and Searchlight and I left the room. I was feeling a little dizzy by the time I got to Okra's office and warnings in my processor let me know that my energon levels were dangerously low. She let us in. Searchlight. I haven't seen you in here since last term and I was starting to hope you'd. Oh my, Soundwave, are you alright? Come sit down. I sat on the berth and she scanned me. Primus. Did you ingest something unusual? Your systems are running all wrong, like there's something in your energon. He's on some drug or other for a chronic processor ache, Searchlight explained. And he just emptied his tanks all over the floor. Ratchet said he needs medical grade. Okra nodded. Yes, that's probably a good idea. What drug are you on? I told her the name written on the label of the jar. That's serious medication, she said. What's going on? Here, I'll get you the mildest med grade I have. I don't want any additives reacting with the drug. She went to a locked cupboard and keyed it open. Here. She took a cube off the shelf and brought it over. Why didn't you come to me if you had a processor ache? I know he has them sometimes. I shrugged. I suppose you went to your caretaker's medic then. I nodded. Sip this. She put the cube in my hands. Just take it a little at a time. I nodded and, feeling self-conscious again, poured a little of the cube down the port in my shoulder. It washed down the energon sticking to the inside and my tanks turned nastily. What's going on? If you don't want to tell me, that's fine. The medic thinks there's something messed up in Soundwave's coding that's doing something wrong with his memory files, Searchlight said. I can tell her this stuff, right? I nodded slightly and poured a little more of the medical grade energon down to my tanks. It didn't hurt so much this time. Really? That sounds serious. He's going to need processor surgery, probably, Searchlight said. Oh my. I hope that goes well. Primus, he must be so scared. I know I would be. You'll be alright, I'm sure. So long as they get a medic who knows what he's doing. They waited for me to finish the medical grade and then Okra told me on no uncertain terms to go rest, and not to take any more of the painkiller. When we got back to Searchlight's room, Cable Reach was there, talking to Breeze and Ratchet. So, he said. Processor surgery. I was starting to get tired of having this conversation. I nodded. The scans next door will probably help isolate the real problem, or at least the damage, Cable Reach said. This could easily necessitate telling your medic. I spoke with Crescent about it and she doesn't seem to like that possibility. No, she did not. And according to Breeze, Cable Reach said. Your tanks rejected the drug the medic gave you for the pain. I nodded. Okay, Cable Reach said. You go rest. I'll calm Crescent again and let her know to tell the medic that doesn't work. Don't take any more of it. Did he think I was stupid? Searchlight walked me to my room and then left. My symbiotes were happy I'd come back so quickly. I knew I should be resting, but I didn't want to miss any opportunities to spend time with them, so I forced myself to stay online until almost lights out. The next morn, my processor ache was back in full. I didn't even get off my berth until it was time for me to go to Crescent's house. I was not looking forward to flying there. Are you going to Searchlight's room? Ravage asked. No, I said. And I might not be back until next dawn. You four try not to worry, all right. Ravage nodded, but he was already worried. Crescent was waiting for me. All right, she said. Let's go. We're walking. I nodded. I should have expected as much. Fortunately, it wasn't that far. The medic was waiting for us there, okay, he said. Thank you for coming in. Soundwave, I've heard you had a bad reaction to the drug I gave you. I unsubspaced the jar of capsules and gave it back to him. Thank you, he said. I'm sorry it didn't work. Can I scan you? I nodded, and he ran a quick, preliminary scan, noting that my processor ache was at least as bad as it had been last time he'd scanned. Come and lie down on the berth. We should have gotten this scan out of the way last Orn. He's not getting any better, that's for certain. I lay down and Crescent sat by the side of the room. She wanted me to know that she was missing a party for this. This is a more intense and thorough scan, the medic said. I'm going to need to put you in stasis for it, all right. I nodded, trying not to be afraid. The medic hooked me up to some sort of machine. Turning off my screen didn't help. I still had to watch in his processor as he monitored my systems shutting down. I automatically tried to reboot them, panicking a little. Don't fight it, the medic warned, putting a hand on my shoulder. This will take twice as long if he fights it. I did fight it. I couldn't help myself. I was turning off. My systems were shutting down, freezing me, killing me. Nothing. I came back online slowly. I didn't know how long I had been in medical stasis. My processor hadn't shut down completely. I'd still been semi-conscious, floating in a sea of darkness. Thankfully, though, I couldn't hear the processors around me, and the pain had been gone as well. But it all returned when I came back online. The medic was still analyzing the data from the scan. You can sit up, he said. I did so, wishing I was back in stasis. Crescent and I waited while he thought about what to say. Crescent wished she could take me aside and ask me what the scan had revealed. The medic noticed her tension, and then remembered that I was in pain. He came over and modified my sensory grid, and I relaxed a little as my processor ache faded to nothing. So, Crescent said. I'm mystified, the medic said. There appears to be nothing wrong with his coding, nothing that would cause this, at least. I was right that he's been storing too much in his memory, though obviously I can't see what it is. It's not steady either. Sometimes it's close to normal, like just now when he was in stasis, but other times it looks like he's been shoving more than 100 times as much in his permanent memory as he should be. I don't know what to think, or why this is the case. There are a few abnormalities in his coding, but nothing that looks broken or like it could cause this. I need to know more if I'm going to diagnose this. I don't know what to do. I need to see those files. Crescent, the medic said. I'm not sure what to do about this. I know why he's in pain, but I don't know what the root malfunction is. Now, I know there are medical records that have been restricted. If I could see those, I might have a better idea of what we're working with here and what the best thing to do could be. Oh, he would not. He thinks I'll play the desperate femme creator, doesn't he? Crescent shuttered her optics for a moment, then opened them again. Excuse me. She said. It might be the only way to. Are you trying to use this to get a look at those files? Crescent. You think because Soundwave is sick, you can bully me into giving you access to them, don't you? I shouldn't have tried. I do dearly want to see them, though. I wonder if Soundwave's seen them. How dare you? Crescent stood up. How dare you try to take advantage of this? Soundwave could be dying. She was absolutely loving this, reveling in how uncomfortable it was making the medic. The medic took an astroscan to compose himself. He could die, he said. If there is anything in those files that could help me. There is nothing. Crescent said. Nothing in those files that is your business, and nothing you need to see. I can't believe this. Let's go, Soundwave. But, the medic said. Let's go. Crescent beckoned me. I warn you, the medic said. If you don't get help for him. You know what's wrong with him. You've told us 2 or 3 times. Trust me, there is nothing in those files that is going to help. Those files are personal. You're a brilliant medic. I'm sure you can think of some way to save him without prying into our personal affairs. If you can't, I'll find someone who can. I stood up with a bit of a sigh. The medic looked at me. Well, that went really well. I followed Crescent out of the office. Primus, Crescent smiled as we walked back onto the street. That was fun. I haven't gotten to do anything like that for Cortexes. In my opinion, it had been a little bit overdone, but she could think whatever she wanted, especially if it meant she was in a decent mood. So, was I right that he just wanted the files, or does he really think that's the only way to save you? I mean, answer the first question. Soundwave, have you done all your homework? I nodded, then shrugged. So sort of. You sure? I nodded. Good. Poor Meki really wants to see those. I wouldn't mind seeing them myself. I shook my helm. Hopeless. Crescent looked at me. Him or me? I ducked a little. She was about to be offended, wasn't she? To my surprise, she just shook her helm and smiled. If you ever need someone to have hysterics, let me know. I don't mind that. Let's go home and see how long it takes, mister. I need to see those documents to break and come apologizing over the comm. I heaved a sigh, which she did take offense at. Her mood changed to something in between annoyance and what almost felt like guilt, but not quite. I wish you'd go away and leave me alone to think. I'm not going to let you die, all right. I promise you that much. Go back to school. I'll send whatever drug he wants to put you on over there. Hit. You know, I said. Crescent glared at me. Look, just because I'm in a good mood doesn't mean. I get it, I said. Sorry. I'm sorry, Crescent. You should be, you little freak. But she wasn't angry at me. Go back to school, I have other things to worry about. We parted ways at her house, and I left to head back to school. The processor ache hadn't come back yet, but walking through the city still made me dizzy and tired. By the time I got to school, I was feeling like recharging or at least sitting still and not thinking about anything. I sat in my room for drawers, but Crescent must have forgotten to send me the drug. Before I died, if I was going to die, I wanted to apologize to Crescent that it had been me who'd survived, and not my femme creator. I knew that even though she understood it wasn't my fault, she blamed me for it. I hadn't been the easiest sparkling to take care of, what with all of my quirks. She'd always been concerned someone would come and take me away. She'd been concerned mostly for her own sake, of course, but if she really hadn't cared at all, she would have handed me over to the government. Maybe she didn't care about me at all, but she still missed my femme creator. And I did know, even though she considered it, that she wouldn't let me die without putting up a fight. The pain came back slowly, and as my processor ache worsened, I started wishing she cared just a little more. She'd promised to send me whatever it was that the medic sent to replace the medication I had been taking that had made me sick. But she hadn't sent anything. I might need to go over to her house, the next door, to get it. Maybe I could send Searchlight instead. No, that would go poorly. I curled up on my berth with my symbiotes to go into recharge. It had been a long morn of walking and flying and bad news. There really might not be anything they could do. Processor surgery might make things better, but on the other hand, they might make the problem worse by accident. At that point, it would be kinder if they just offlined me. I had a terrible time recharging, between the pain and the fear, but at some time during the off cycle, with the sleeping symbiotes pressed against me and the dead weight of exhaustion dragging on me, I slipped off. The next morn, I didn't get off my berth until the afternoon, when I could go to Searchlight's room with my symbiotes. He and Ratchet and Breeze were there already when I came in, and Searchlight welcomed me and asked me how the scans the previous Orn had gone. I sat down in my chair and let Rumble and Frenzy down to the floor. They don't know what to do, I told him. Oh no, Breeze looked down at her hands. They'll figure something out, Searchlight said, but even he couldn't hide the way that frightened him. They didn't know what to do. That meant there might be nothing they could do, which meant I could be dying, or at the least losing my ability to process memories, which wasn't really any better than dying. Frenzy climbed up onto Ratchet's desk. Hey, Ratchet said. Go away. Well, that's rude, Frenzy said and pushed over a stack of datapads. You. Ratchet grabbed Frenzy by one arm and held him up above the desk. Help. Soundwave, save me. I got up and crossed the room. Ratchet dropped Frenzy onto my outstretched hand and Frenzy clung to my arm and then climbed up to my shoulder. He's mean, Soundwave. Imagine being his roommate, Searchlight said. Ratchet huffed and straightened the stack of datapads, but didn't offer any sort of counterattack. Searchlight, Bree said reproachfully. That was inconsiderate and he knows it. Sorry, Ratch, Searchlight said. I didn't mean that. Whatever, Ratchet grumbled. I really like being your roommate. He'd better not. It gives me plenty of opportunity to practice ducking. Searchlight. What? Do you even know? I give up. It's fine, Ratchet said. I'm used to him. They are all really ridiculous, Laserbeak commented. Why do you spend time with them, Soundwave? I shrugged. Who is he shrugging at? Breeze wondered. Someone's not following the rule. So, she said. Does the medic know what he's going to do at all, or is there just nothing? Well, I said. The medic knows it has something to do with the way I store memory files, but he doesn't know what's causing the problem, so he doesn't know what to fix. So, Searchlight said. You might need to tell him. About the mind reading and slag? I nodded. Crescent really doesn't want to. Of course she doesn't, Searchlight said. She probably just wants to let you die, oh, slag. She doesn't actually, does she? She is not going to just let you die. Don't worry, she won't, I said. Are you sure about that? I nodded. You aren't just saying that. If she didn't care, she'd have thrown me out forns ago. Okay, Searchlight said. I mean, I will talk to her if you ever need. I shook my helm. Yeah, Bree said. That's a bad idea, and you know it, Searchlight. You just make her angry. Mecha should not be able to do that, Searchlight said. No one should be exempt from having morals just because they have money. Bree smiled at him. And that is why I love you. Oh, sorry, Soundwave. You could be dying, and here I am mooning over Searchlight. I shrugged. It was better than her being all angsty because she thought Searchlight would never notice her. I spent the rest of the afternoon with them. It wasn't exactly normal because none of us could get it out of our processors that this might be one of the last afternoons the four of us spent together, or at least that the time we had was dwindling rapidly. When the warning for lights out rang, I got up. My processor ache made me feel dizzy, but it wasn't the worst it had ever been. I told my symbiotes to go ahead, and Ravage promised to make sure Rumble and Frenzy got back to my room. I stood in the doorway and looked around at my friends. Wave. Searchlight asked. If it comes down to it, I said. Ratchet. Would you take Ravage? Ratchet hesitated, then nodded. Hold on, Searchlight said. You aren't making us do this. Searchlight, can you take the others? No, Searchlight stood up. I mean, no, you are not dying. They'll figure something out. I shrugged. No, Searchlight came over and put a hand on my shoulder. Don't even think like that. But will you take them? Please, Searchlight. He stared at me for an Astroskind, and then wrapped his arms around me. Okay, he said. Of course. Don't worry about them, we'll take care of them. Thank you, I whispered. You're still not dying. Searchlight let me go. If I could have smiled, I would have. Instead I just turned and left to go make sure my symbiotes all got back to my room all right. They had, and there was a smallish container sitting just outside the door. I picked it up on my way in and closed the door behind myself. The container had a message on it, which I activated. The medic's voice was clear in the room and all my symbiotes listened as attentively as I was. In this container, you'll find several doses of a painkiller for you to try. Don't take more than one per orn. This particular drug can be addicting and somewhat dangerous in high doses. You're going to need to inject it directly into your energon lines. If you aren't comfortable doing that yourself, I'm sure Crescent or your school's medic can help you. I also wanted to let you know that we are working on a solution to your problem and it's highly likely we'll be able to work something out. I know I sounded a little bleak last Orn. I apologize if I scared you. I'll contact Crescent to set up our next appointment. Good luck, and let me know if you have any problems with this drug. The message ended and the container opened to reveal a neat row of full syringes. Frenzy ducked lower, suddenly frightened. He didn't like needles. Are you really going to use one of those things? If he was in as much pain as I was, he would have understood. I didn't care if I had to cut off my hand to get it to stop. I took out one of the syringes, wishing he wouldn't be so afraid because it was making me nervous as well. It's okay, Frenzy. You don't have to watch if you don't want to. Frenzy turned away. The others watched with fear or nervousness as I felt out exactly where I needed to put it, then slipped the needle between two plates in my arms. I could feel it when it punctured the energon line I had been aiming for, and I triggered the release of the medication into the line. Then I sat back in my chair and waited, hoping it took effect before too long so I could recharge more easily. Is it over? Frenzy asked. Yes, Ravage said. I don't know what you're so scared of. It's just a little needle. Frenzy shuddered. Don't tease him, I said and beckoned Frenzy over. He came and let me pick him up and put him on the desk. Rumble felt left out, so I brought him over as well and put him next to his twin. You two have been really good, I said to them. Thank you. Frenzy beamed and Rumble crossed his arms. Well, what else are we supposed to do? You're sick, we're not going to cause trouble when you're sick. Thank you anyway. All of you. Ravage climbed up to his spot on my shoulders and Laserbeak maneuvered herself to lie flat on the desk so I could stroke the long, smooth plates of her wings. Lights out came. I sat up and waited for the painkiller to take effect. For a while I couldn't tell, then my processor stopped hurting so much. The pain dropped rapidly to a manageable level. I sighed and got up, ready to get some recharge and not sure what the next Orn would bring. Maybe I should try to go to classes. I'd missed 3 Orns of school already. I was about to lie down on my berth when a wave of dizziness washed over me, and the noise in my processor got louder. It took me a moment to realize that my range was larger than it ought to be. And expanding. I stumbled away from the berth. Are you okay? Ravage asked. What's wrong? I could hear Searchlight and Ratchet talking all the way down the hall. I could feel my processor overheating. I needed. It was past lights out. Everyone was settling down to recharge. My symbiotes were worried. I needed help. I could see everything and hear everything and feel everything. I was Ravage, staring in horror as I collapsed to the ground. I was the student next door, finishing an essay in the dark. I was the teacher who'd gotten stuck with off-cycle duty. I was a mech, driving past the school, hurrying to get home. I was in pain. Oh, Primus, the pain. Something snapped. I shut down.